Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Fashion Snoops Fireside Streams, at-home discussions between our team and a broad range of individuals that represent the current zeitgeist. I'm Nico Gavino. I'm the Culture and Consumer Insights Analyst here on the FS team, and I'm joined today by Alejandra Beltran, designer and a coordinator of the high fashion Twitter Met Gala, which made headlines across some of the biggest fashion and cultural publications this year for their inclusive online event inspired by the famous Met Gala. I'm going to be speaking to Alejandra today in reference to our Spring-Summer 2023 cultural sentiment, which was titled Release. And to tell you a little bit about Release, Alejandra, this sentiment speaks to this new era that we're entering that's characterized by industry democratization and unhindered creativity. In Release, we really unpack how this era of great tension that we've experienced over the past year and a half has facilitated this desire for many people to break free in a lot of ways. So to quote the report, the sentiment of Release is an agent of healing and progress as the act of letting go creates room for a future liberated from dark pasts. And with that said, I welcome Alejandra. Hey Alejandra, how are you?
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Of course, our pleasure. So to start off, for those who maybe aren't familiar with high fashion Twitter Met Gala, could you please tell us a little bit about this event and how the organization kind of got started?
Yeah, sure. Well, for those of you who don't know, there's a community on Twitter, which we love to call High Fashion Twitter, in which we discuss the fashion industry, runways, news, collaborations between different houses, and even some of the real problems of the industry, like the exploitation and environmental impact of their processes. And on the day of the Met Gala, high fashion Twitter usually comes together and it feels like a very tight-knit community. So in around 2019, Aria Olsen came up with the amazing idea of creating a companion event where people could come up with what they would wear to the actual event. And the main purpose was to fit the theme, but would also give a space for people to showcase their creativity and be part of, well, this very exclusive event. Starting from the different talents that we could find in the community, people like to do mood boards, brand archives, styling, or illustration. So from these different activities, we created a set of categories where people could participate, and just to give some guidelines for people to create their looks to participate in the event. And it was really amazing the way we could see the creativity of people all around the world without any actual limitations. You didn't really have to be a fashion designer. We were all just guided by our love for fashion. So yeah, that's basically the event. And we do this as an annual thing.
Yeah. No, it's so cool to see how kind of diverse all of the submissions are. You'll see mood boards, fashion illustrations, and even these DIY outfits that were made from items that people just have in their home. It's such a creative thing, and it's just so cool to witness.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
you mentioned high fashion Twitter, and online communities, they play such a huge role in shaping so many of the cultural conversations we have these days. The first thing that comes to mind for me is this past Met Gala, seeing all those memes about AOC and her dress and just how much these communities shape these conversations. So how would you describe that community of high fashion Twitter, and how did you get into that community?
All right. Well, I would describe it as an online subculture of fashion devotees where we discuss the ins and out of the industry. Um, it isn't really rigid, like people make mood boards, talk about celebrities, or just, well, many of us are in design, so we just show our knowledge for people to learn. And we also comment a lot on the inner workings of the fashion industry, like I mentioned before. But I think that what really characterizes this community is the fact that we speak openly and candidly about what we like and what we dislike, because we are not working for anyone. So we are very vocal about the issues that we think that are important to talk about, like body diversity, cultural appropriation, greenwashing, or runway representation. And it's amazing because, like I mentioned, it isn't really all about fashion industry people, because you can really see people that are studying just business or programming, but they love fashion and try to create conversations about this. The other day, I saw some tweets where people just thank this community because it starts to become a place where you get inspired and you get to not only to learn a lot about the industry and how it works, the story of designers, photographers, and stylists, but also is a place where you get inspired and motivate yourself, like to work for something you dream of. And that creates a very like amazing community where you support yourself. And I got into it because I've always been a Twitter person, and when I saw a lot of these fashion tweets, I started to say like, hey, I didn't know this was a thing. And just going through it and learning, it just feels like I love this community. I'm very happy to be part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I also grew up, on social media. That was like our main mode of like communicating and building communities. So I can totally see what you mean. And I think, the fashion industry can be can seem like such an exclusive place to people where they don't necessarily feel welcome or like they're able to access it. But like you're saying, like the fashion Twitter community is a place where there's really like no gatekeepers and anybody can join in on these kind of conversations. So do you see any of these like newer social hubs shifting the high fashion social media community? Like, we've seen the way that Clubhouse has entered the conversation and like audio-based social media, as well as how TikTok is kind of reshaping our idea of like the fashion blogger with these new TikTokers that are making, styling and like trend forecasting videos.
Yeah, well, personally, I love Clubhouse because I think that as Twitter, it like bases on words. And I think words are very powerful, and that's the way you actually learn. Um, because like Instagram, you can see pictures, they can send a message, but it's actually a little more about aesthetics and how it looks. So it kind of feels a little superficial for me. TikTok, I don't use it that much. I think it's very cool and it's totally changing social media as we know it. But I think we have to be very careful with the content that is on TikTok, because sometimes they are kind of promoting overconsumption,
Mm.
because people think, like, they look at these TikTokers and what they're doing, styling these amazing pieces, but they have a big closet and everyone thinks they can be an influencer. So they're starting to join these styling challenges. And for that, they require a lot of clothing. So I think there's a little problem on that. But I also think that it's very valuable, those people that are actually making videos where they talk about trends in this short time, and just give this quick information that people love, that people take and actually learn. And I think that's very useful for people. um, and also the whole fashion history and fashion news, just to keep them up to date. So I think it's a very interesting way in which you can like learn quickly about the industry and just be in touch with it. But I think we have to be very careful, like with that, like I
Yeah.
said.
Yeah, I love that point that you make about, you know, um, these audio-based social medias like Clubhouse being, based around speaking to each other and engaging. in a way that's not necessarily visual and isn't all about the aesthetic. So you can actually have maybe more like interesting or critical discussions on Clubhouse, because it's not all about style. It's really about having an authentic conversation with your community. And I also, yeah, I've seen a lot about, TikTok and these the concerns with overconsumption with these sheen hauls that people are posting, and how that can be harmful to, the fashion conversation. But we talk a lot about breaking barriers in our release sentiment, and we talk a lot about the end of gatekeeping and how our hubs are, creating this environment where anyone can join a community and learn about a topic or learn a skill. And I wonder, do you think that the internet has democratized fashion for the masses?
Absolutely. I think it's very easy to learn fashion nowadays. Like you can actually do your research and have all these points of view, perspectives, and information, not only from the place you are, but from all around the world. And I think that's something very important, because sometimes you're just very focused on what you know, and the internet is allowing us to learn about things we haven't really seen and are happening far away from we are. I think it's also easier to put your work out there. It's a way that designers and just fashion people can show what they like, what they are capable to do, and actually just create your online portfolio for people to know you are there. And this is something that you couldn't really do before. Um, but regarding the entrance to the actual industry, I think there is still a narrow door that we have to keep fighting. The internet is definitely giving tools and facilitating outsiders to make an effort to fit in, but the inside hasn't really opened that much to let these people join.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love the point that you make about being able to learn about anything on the internet. How much of being on high fashion Twitter informed your interest in fashion and your knowledge of fashion? Did a lot of it come from that, or was a lot of it from your education, you know, in school?
I think it was a lot about Twitter, honestly, because I love fashion as just a way to express myself. But when I got to this community, you actually become a little more critic about what you buy and what you see. I never actually knew about the problems of the industry, talking about sustainability and exploitation of their workers. And just by discussing it, by showing it's happening here on high fashion Twitter, I actually got very interested. And that's actually one of the reasons I stopped buying fast fashion. And I can say it's high fashion Twitter who led me to it. Um, Also, I think you'll learn about wait, I forgot, sorry. um I think it's also a place that inspires you,
Yeah.
so you just don't stick to the norms, and you start like thinking outside the box, because you usually would have the normal ideas, but by having all these weird unknown designers on the timeline, you can actually get inspired and create something new from there. And I think that's something that has really influenced me.
Yeah, I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about how in this year's Met Gala, and I know you guys were probably watching very closely in your group, we saw so many TikTok and YouTube influencers walk the carpet, and the Met Gala memes that dominated the social feeds. So I wonder, what your thoughts are on how the growth of social media and these influencers like, I don't know, Emma Chamberlain are shaping how we consume fashion.
I think influencers and social media figures are like creating, I don't know how to call this, but like a social media avatar that like allows us to show what we want to be online. So we just kind of like create this whole profile kind of fake, but also kind of real. Um, but it is all about the idea of novelty. So like having the pressure not to wear the same shirt on the same on the next photo you're posting. And I think that's something that's happening because of all this idea of social media and newness, and you want something new to see actually, because that's the catch. That's where people are going to join your community, because you're always giving something new. But I also think that these influencers are kind of making people realize, and the social media is making people realize that fashion is for everyone. And before the age of the internet, like learning about fashion, like I mentioned before, it was a lot harder and a lot more inaccessible, and it often required having to be an industry insider to be knowing about these trends and everything. But I think this social media is giving a chance for this generation to start understanding fashion and just expressing yourself the way you want, because that's something that many social media figures are trying to promote. And I think that's something that it's helping and kind of changing the way we are approaching to fashion and how we decide to create the persona we are.
Yeah, I think that's an important point about, influencers kind of showing that fashion is for everybody because, I think at the beginning when you would first start seeing like, I don't know, like skateboarders and TikTokers and YouTubers at fashion shows, there was definitely like a sense of resentment at first, and people were like, oh, they don't belong here. But now it's like, people are like, wait, Emma Chamberlain's kind of fabulous, or something like that. And when you mention, talking about wearing something different every day on social media and that kind of pressure, I can't help but think of how we're tracking the rise of digital fashion at Fashion Snoops, and how this is opening up, new opportunities for creativity, but also maybe sustainability, with digital items being worn. So how do you see digital fashion contributing to the industry's future? Do you think that this is just like a fad as we go through this NFT surge, or is this something that's really going to become an integral part of our lives?
I think digital fashion is very cool because it kind of defies real life laws, to call it that way, and allow us to think further than what we know and can do in real life. But practically, I don't really know where it's going, because I think this is an answer for the like I mentioned, ego-driven social media avatars that we're creating, where we need like something new. But like we still need clothes to go out, so there's the thing. But I think that it would be very good to use it as a tool for people to like kind of decide what to wear without buying.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about how this could be a way for people to try things on and look what looks good on them without actually needing to buy it. And then after deciding it, they would actually buy the clothing, So
Yeah.
no need to buy these whole things, try it, and then say, this doesn't go with me. You just like use this digital fashion as a way to like try them on, and then you could decide. And I think that would be very helpful for sustainability.
That's definitely, a huge opportunity for digital fashion. And, we just spoke about how some of these TikTok styling challenges, they promote overconsumption, and how digital fashion could actually be a solution for that, because, we could reduce carbon emissions from returns and all sorts of things like that. And I want to close out, we're reaching the end of our time, but I do want to close out by talking about what kind of walls you would like to see come down in the fashion industry. Because, part of your mission as an organization, the High Fashion Twitter Met Gala, is bridging that gap between the brands and the public.
Well, Well, first of all, I think that we need to make the fashion world way more accessible. And it was part of our goals, as you mentioned, to be more inclusive and to give a space for people to showcase their creativity, and that it was made for fashion enthusiasts from all around the world to share and express their creative visions without like real world innovations. And I think the industry right now is very close to exclusive celebrities or exclusive brands, and just this whole microverse that's the only place that have a chance to be part of this conversation. But I also think that it's very important for brands to start opening up about their creative processes behind their shows, letting the public see the inspiration behind their brands and their collections can actually inspire designers or to make bigger things, because they can actually like understand the train of thought that made them go from here to here and say like, I could do this in another way, or I love the way he thought. And I think this is a very inspiring way that would help to create a more creative environment.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that it's important for the fashion industry to start like creating new ways to have meaningful connections with their consumer that are for far more than just buying clothing. Maybe I know that years ago brands used to share their patterns for people to sew their own clothing, but like following the same style of the brand. And I think that will help to connect brands while still maintaining the aspirational relationship that you like to have. And I just think that collaboration is very important, and opening up to the smaller ones to actually give them a chance to grow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all such great thoughts. You know, what you and the high fashion Twitter Met Gala have pulled off is so incredible. And the ripple effects that that actually had in the industry and the conversations that we're having as a trend forecasting agency it's really inspiring. And we really do hope to see a future that is accessible, just like your mission. So, you know, young and emerging designers like yourself have inspired us in this cultural sentiment of release. So I want to thank you on behalf of our team. It's been such a pleasure to talk and unpack some of these topics. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, bye.
Bye.